Good afternoon, Mark. Hi there, Scott. Looks like Scott is still connecting on audio.
How you doing?
Good, thank you. We're about a minute early. Good morning, Sue.
Hey, good morning.
Happy Thursday.
Yeah, happy Thursday to you.
Almost at the weekend.
Almost.
Good afternoon, Scott. How are you?
Hey, good to see you, Jim.
Pleasure. Happy Thursday, almost at the weekend, and looking forward to a great meeting. I heard hymns was impressive as always.
Yeah, it was seemed a little less attended as in the past, but maybe it was just a little bit of my perception. I don't know.
It usually draws a large number of attendees, and as I mentioned, it's the only conference I've ever been to where my legs were extremely sore from walking miles
Oh, I
at
can
the
believe it.
Orlando Convention Center.
I wear my Fitbit and count the steps. So
Awesome. Yeah, I should have brought a pedometer when I was exhibiting there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. We are privileged to have a special presentation on customer experience. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I expect a lot of other joining as we move into the presentation. Okay, please let me know if anyone can see the screen.
Again.
Okay, great. So we're going to start off with some HDI news, and then we're going to have a presentation from Nate Brown on how to make customer experience stick. We'll open it up to questions, and then we'll have a wrap up, and then there will be a survey uh, at the conclusion of the event. Moving forward here. First of all, I'd like to start off by thanking my local chapter officer team that helps with every event. We have Sue Giliberti joining us, Joe Alexander, James Moore, and Nancy Robinson. We also have great sponsors in terms of 1IO, Robert Half, who are both gold sponsors, as well as Robert Half is also one of our national sponsors and sponsor of our premier awards that we have been giving every year. Along with Robert Half, we have Splashtop, Symphony AI, and Resolve AI. AI very prevalent and of interest in the marketplace. And our silver sponsors, Indicate. In terms of upcoming events, we have a virtual chapter webinar nationwide that's taking place next Tuesday between 1 and 2 o'clock Eastern Time. It's a panel discussion with more information on the next slide. We're looking at, for the HDI Central Florida chapter, hosting a social in Winter Garden at the popular Crooked Can Brewery, which has the attached marketplace with all kinds of cuisine. And we're looking at the summer July, August. You will be receiving more information and an invitation when that is locked in. Coming up on Thursday, September 16th, we have Eddie Vidal, who is a very dynamic presenter. He's the director of IT service management at Memorial Healthcare System, and he's going to be presenting how he has transformed the way they deliver IT services, transformation, transparency, and accountability, a case study on changing the way we deliver IT services. And coming up as every year, Sunday, November 17th through the 21st is Service Management World, which again will be at the Lowe's Sapphire Falls Resort at Universal Orlando. Early registration should be posted in early June. Here's some more information about the panel discussion webinar next Tuesday. I'll make sure when I post the PDF of this presentation that this link works. I have tested it. It's for registration. And you'll have Christian Merkel of GoTo, Vicki Rogers of Georgia Tech's Office of Information Technology, and Doug Tedder of Tedder Consulting on the panel. Service Management World is a great event, and certainly one to consider. There will be minions. Believe it or not, I didn't create this slide. In the upper right-hand corner, I can attest that there were actually minions, in addition to all the thought leaders in our industry. But a very worthwhile event for networking and training from HDI and learning great ideas. And it's not too early to think about Support World Live for next year. The dates have been posted May 18th through 23rd, and registration will be opening up soon. It was a big success a couple of weeks ago in Denver, and I can attest that it's always a very valuable event for all attendees. Just a reminder, we have quite a bit of HDI training available for you. Most is on demand at your convenience. All paid members get a 5% discount, and paid members also get discounts at each of the HDI conferences, Support World Live and Service Management World, and you can use the codes that are on this slide. Okay, Nate Brown. I think every IT service and support professional that I meet with, and certainly every CXO that I speak to, is very interested and concerned about employee experience and customer experience, because every market, every industry is highly competitive. We're at a 54% low in unemployment, and there are many open positions across the IT service and support industry, and it is top of mind. Employee retention, keeping customers, and not only keeping them, but delighting them at each customer touch point is critical. And the presenter that we're privileged to have today, Nate Brown, is certainly a recognized expert. Now, Nate called me yesterday and informed me that his senior executive had required him to do an internal presentation at the very same time as this web conference. And in typical dependable Nate fashion, he videotaped his presentation last night, which I can show here, and he's going to attempt to join this web conference for the Q&A at the end. If he joins sooner than that, certainly he can take the reins and present, and that will be great. But I first met Nate about 10 years ago at an HDI conference, and I was very impressed with multiple attributes that I noticed. For one, his attire. He was wearing a neon light, bright cobalt blue pants with a bright plaid shirt that did not need batteries to stand out. He brings an amazing amount of positive energy uh, and literally lights up a room. So he's bigger than life. He loves people, super friendly, and he's extremely passionate about customer experience and employee experience. He is a globally recognized authority and thought leader in those areas, and he's also a practitioner. Uh, so, in addition to presenting at all the HDI conferences, ICMI conferences, and others, both in the United States and around the world, he also manages an affiliate call center, contact center for BMI, the Broadcast Music uh, Incorporated company that represents the most successful singers, songwriters, and composers in the industry. And fittingly, that's in Music City, Nashville, where he is based. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to uh, play Nate's video on making customer experience stick, what he calls the experience Triforce.
What's going on, everybody? Nate Brown here from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm sure it's a lovely day in Central Florida, as it always is. It's a pretty lovely day in Nashville as well. Thank you for your flexibility today. And yeah, goodness, Jim, I so appreciate you extending the invite. Such a cool topic that we get to discuss today. And I know there's a lot of IT service management folks out there. I love HDI. My first ever CX related certification was HDI. I love those annual conferences. It looked like the one that just happened was a blast. I wish I could have been there. But goodness, yeah, a lot of IT service management folks, and many of the topics that are being discussed are customer experience related, and how do we get that CX mindset to creep into other areas of the business and make it stick. So thank you so much for having me today. My name is Nate. I do live in Nashville. I work for BMI, Broadcast Music Inc. So I get to set up a brand new service center for the affiliates, which is the artists themselves. It's such a fun job, and getting to serve these folks that are creating these amazing things is fantastic. And have been also running a nonprofit called CX Accelerator for many years. A couple of you are in there, so thank you for that. And I just love this puzzle of customer experience. I mean, it's such a left brain, right brain thing that we're getting to talk about in terms of it's the thoughts and perceptions that people have towards a brand. Where do those perceptions come from? So much of it is relationship based, and that right brain activity, in terms of those intrinsic values and things like that. And then left brain, so much of it is science and the analytics around, where this psychology comes from and change management. So it is very much a puzzle that we get to solve together. And it's so cool to me how the work is changing and evolving all the time. So anybody that says, oh yeah, CX got that figured out. No, it's every day is a new day in this wonderful field of customer experience. So let's jump in. I mean, I feel like CX is a few things, and it's not a few things. I mean, we talk about this term quite a lot, and as we think about how it applies in an IT service management context, it can get a bit tricky. In many cases, it can become somewhat everything, and executives love to give lip service. Oh yeah, we gotta treat our customers right. Gotta do that. That's important. Like, okay, well, what does that mean? What does it actually look like? And so often it ends up becoming a program or like some initiative that gets rammed into a quarter. Some executive reads an HBR article or something, highlighting the amazing value of customer experience, which is very true. But then, okay, let's try this out for a quarter, or renaming the customer service team as an example to the customer experience group, and it can't be everything. So then what is it? Well, it's a mentality. I mean, if we really wrap our brains around what this is, where thoughts and perceptions towards the brand come from, It starts with the mentality of us, those representing the brand, and then extending that outwards towards those that we get to serve. It's a way of conducting business. There's specific attributes to what great CX looks like for us. And that's different than the company down the road. That's different than Apple and Chewy and Southwest and all those we like to kind of rip off and idolize, and for good reasons. But like our CX is our own. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And I like to think of it as an ongoing revolution. There is no finish line to this work. It goes on as we evolve, as our customers evolve. It's a puzzle that we keep getting to try and solve in new ways. So it does a lot of good, this thing of CX. And maybe you saw the amazing report that came out, the sad report, the epidemic of loneliness that came out from our U.S. Surgeon General in the fall. And it was convicting to me, but it talked about specifically in there how one of the combating forces towards this epidemic of loneliness is cultivating meaningful communities. And that's exactly what we do inside of a good workplace, and extending that all the way through towards our stakeholders and to our customers. So, that's one amazing attribute of a great CX leader is that of a community builder. But another thing that's really got me fired up right now, Brad Cleveland recently shared in ICMI, the sister company of HDI, at their annual conference, the Simplicity Index. And if you look at those organizations that are excelling in terms of ease of business, you make it easy for me to do business with you, and how that is just excelling in every market segment and just gobbling up market share and outrunning all these other indexes in this unbelievable way. So that's another incredible attribute of a CX leader, is that of a friction reducer and making things seamless and designing great experiences that hit the need, that add value and accomplish the objective in a seamless design. So just a couple of the ways that a CX mentality breathes life into the business. We know it's a good thing, but it's hard to make it stick. So let's try and think about, what would be the things that we would need to do as a gift to the organization to help it to excel in this area of customer experience, because it is hard and it does take time, but it absolutely is possible. And to me, it's really these three areas to make it something that we can sink our teeth into. It's voice of customer. So it's that science of knowing how customers truly perceive us. Not what we think about ourselves. That's usually what most organizations operate under, that lens. It's the real, robust voice of the customer and their true perceptions, which we have intelligently extrapolated through our voice of customer engine, to use that Gene Bliss term. So we're going to look at that. Then as we learn through those priorities through that VOC engine, let's do something about it. This is where the rubber hits the road, and we get to make some meaningful difference in the business, but do it in a change management lens that makes sense, that's sustainable, that brings people together, and then ultimately anchoring it, as with any good change management initiative, anchoring it in the culture in very specific ways. And we'll look at that together as well. So those are the three areas that we're gonna chase down today. Definitely be active in the chat. Would love to hear your thoughts and questions as we go through this. So I love this quote from Maven Insights. CX strategy depends on two things: changing the mindset of the organization and collectively adapting to delivering the desired experience. Now, there's power in those words, because there's a crystallization here of what the desired experience is. So we've understood that together, and our organization has a unique concept of our desired experience that we're trying to create. And that can absolutely be an IT service management experience that we're designing, but there's specific attributes to that. How do we want people to feel? How do we want people to perceive us? To go back to that CX definition. So as we define that, now we get to change the mindset. It's a battle of the mind first, and then it spills over into the behaviors that we're collectively adapting towards delivering on that experience. So what a wonderful way to think about it as we anchor this in. So what then? Where do we get these attributes for our experience inside of our organization? Well, I love this classic resource from HBR, this company identity matrix. And the brilliance of this is it starts down here at the bottom and it works up to where you crystallize the brand core. Like, you can't be all things to all people here. Like, you get to have a unique experience to you. So what do you promise? What is that amazing promise that caused your business to come to be in the first place? Like, people got together and put a line in the sand and said, we're going to stand up for this thing. We're going to do this better than anybody else. So those competencies down there. We're going to form a culture, like a unique community around this promise. And then we're going to create some values, how we operate together. We're going to start to express that distinctively with a personality that is uniquely ours, that represents our community, with specific language for our tribe. And we'll dive into that term in a little bit here. But then right there in the middle, what do we promise? What are the core values that sum up what our brand stands for? And that should be part of the desired experience element. What is it? What is it that you're going to really go to the mat for in terms of, I'm going to be a guardian for this promise. I'm going to defend it. And then, we get to get into the top layer, which is sadly where so much of the conversation happens. And a lot of times we kind of lose sight of these bottom layers here. Most organizations are spending so much time on the top when years ago they lost focus on the brand core. But that idea of value prop, what is it that we offer? How can we attract our customers to us? Can't be all things to all people. How do we find our customers? Position. What's our position in the marketplace? How do we attract those customers to us? And then our relationships. How do we cultivate those relationships to make it stick and earn loyalty, which is, for so many of us, the golden egg of CX done well is going to be represented in the reality of loyalty. So that gives us a good foundation on which to spring into. Okay, so now we know what we're looking to achieve. Now, how do we start to listen? And this topic of voice of customers becomes so exciting. The new technology that's out there is intimidating and it's confusing in many ways, but this is an area where, oh my gosh, it's gotten so much better. I mean, if we think about where we were, 5, 10, 7 years ago as CX professionals and so dependent on these legacy survey technologies, and now having these remarkable ways to go into the interaction and learn from the interaction that we have with our stakeholders, with our customers, to be present for it and to learn incredible things like sentiment through those interactions without having to go back and ask the very person we served, well, how did you feel about that? And depending on, a 1 to 3% response rate or something like that, now we have these incredible new tools that give us these wonderful capabilities. But sans the jumping into, these remarkable customer experience management platforms, there's ways that you can start to develop a mindset in the business. And I was working for UL and was convicted, I was managing the contact center, and so much of the feedback that we got in our customer service interactions just went into the void. And we weren't really in the mindset of capturing that and doing more than just taking tickets. We were kind of in a ticket taker mentality. And I knew we could do more. I knew we could do better. And the first big step on the path to doing more and breaking that ticket taker mentality was these little USB web key buttons that we purchased. And they're just flashing little USB web key buttons, pop into a USB drive. And I mean, it was a flashing representation of the fact that I am the voice of the customer. And whenever I got meaningful customer feedback, I'd hit that button, and it just brought me to an ultra simple little form. What's going on with this customer? How do they feel right now? What could we do to make this experience better for them? And it just psychologically lit a switch within people in terms of, wow, I'm doing more than just resolving a ticket. I am enhancing an experience for somebody that I get to serve today. And so psychologically did something very powerful. And when we can put a physical thing to represent a mental state that we're trying to create, a lot of times we can accelerate, that growth, that establishment of that behavior we're looking to generate. And it certainly happened in this case, which was really fun to see. But an interesting reminder, one of those buttons I passed out, we extended it well beyond the contact center to other customer facing areas. And one individual, I'll never forget, I'm passing it out, and, it's like, okay, here's your voice of customer button, here's how you use it. And she goes, so I only put in customer feedback. Yeah, that's what it's for. Well, what about my button? And it was kind of that wake up call of, wow, we've not done near enough to capture your voice. So it's kind of that cardinal sin of CX. Like, we start with the employee experience foundation. We create the experience for them. And to use Denise Leon language, we're giving them a gift that they can authentically pass on to the customer. But unless that gift is theirs to be given first, it's going to be very shallow. They're going to be faking the delivery of that experience that they themselves do not have. And that's not going to be sustainable. That burnout's going to creep in so quickly. So as we think about things that we're designing for our customers and making an experience stick for them that generates loyalty, we've done even more for our employees first so that they can deliver on that experience promise. So that's really where VOC starts, is that employee voice of customer channel. So some goals that we have with this, I love saying, let's get smarter with every customer interaction. And that's where that knowledge curator role kind of comes in. I wrote about this recently. I'd love to share that post with you if anybody's interested, but it's going from ticket takers to knowledge curators and the power of doing, and it's the voice of customer function that awakens that. And it's connecting our employees to customers in really meaningful ways. And the intrinsic motivation is there. Versus so often we devolve the VOC conversation to, oh, you screwed up here. This is wrong. That's a friction point. This is screwed up. I don't understand that at all. And that's important. That's a big part of it. But even more than that, VOC should be our opportunity to be like, this is working. And showing the employees the difference that they're making in the lives of customers and stakeholders. And we sometimes we cut that out in terms of our use of that VOC engine. And now we have so many more capabilities to have value-focused customer experience metrics that represent how a great service experience, as an example, correlates to some specific meaningful outcome. And here's a couple examples of metrics that help to show that in terms of loyalty or engagement or growth. We have those capabilities to correlate CX service to those meaningful outcomes that represent the growth of the business, truly. And that's an exciting thing for us as well, because historically it's very hard to prove the value of customer experience related work, and customer sentiment just blows me away. Just that simple question of how do you feel about X, and being able to compare parts of the stakeholder journey here, and collect it in all these different amazing ways. So that's a really fun thing to get to explore is the collection of sentiment throughout the journey. But really, there's all this new tech, there's all these things, but really what we're trying to do is have people listen. And I love the Brad Cleveland example. He talks about a restaurant in Southern California where their VOC program was just a 3x5 note card that their wait staff would carry around. And as they noticed things, as they heard things about their guest experience, they would just jot those down. At the end of the day, they would come together and read those together and celebrate the things that they did the day before that stuck, that worked. And that serotonin, that beauty of learning, evolving the experience together, motivating one another towards greatness. There's so much power in that. And then isolating a couple things that they could do different tomorrow. That's it. Like we overcomplicate it with all these tools and processes and different things. But we've got to keep the heart of VOC right there in terms of encouraging one another towards greatness and getting smarter with these customer interactions. As long as we can do that at scale with the technology, but keep that heart pulse in place, we're going to be doing some great things. So now we've learned all these great things about our customers and the priorities that they have. So now we can start to think about, wow, what changes could we make that would lead to these meaningful outcomes, and how can we navigate those changes together? If you've got any VOC questions, please jump those into the chat. Would love to address those as we move forth into this change management topic. But I love, and if anybody's heard me speak before, I'm sure you saw this slide because I think I've used it in every presentation ever. But it's just so powerful as we apply the 3 first principles in the 8-step process of leading change by John Coder, how relevant it really is for us. If we want CX to stick, we've got to adhere to this scientific process around change management. We don't get to shortcut this just because, we like to think that CX is special and it's different and it's set apart. No, like it is. It's really cool and it's fun and it's good. And we know, so many cool things about it, but we don't get to shortcut the science around change management to make the principles stick. We're trying to adapt, morph our mindset and behaviors towards the desired experience. And Annette Franz talks about how what that really is a culture change. And culture change is the slipperiest fish of them all when it comes to making change stick. So we've got to go through these intelligent steps. And number one, it's establishing a sense of urgency. People do not change for the sake of change. They hate it generally, especially as adults. If you look at the adult brain, going back to the psychology discussion in this presentation, it's like giant supernova highways where we've formed ruts, patterns. The brain is wired to expel the least amount of energy possible. So we've got all these shortcuts that are wired in there, and we do not want to change the routine. And inertia cripples our personal performance, and inertia cripples entire organizations because it happens at scale. Because of our physiologically, that's how we're designed really to operate, is that energy reduction mode. So we got to break it. We got to break people out of that, break the pavement of those supernova highways and form some new connections and wake people up to new possibilities. But it requires a really strong match to light that fire. So you got to think about what that is. What is going to wake somebody up to the point where they're going to break the pavement of their mental pathways and reveal the fertile ground underneath to where we can plant a new seed of change. It's hard to do, and there's a few matches that exist, and if you can think of one, put it in the chat. But you've kind of got to some degree the fear tactics of our competitors are getting this CX thing, and they're gobbling up market share. Like they're going to win unless we figure out the customer experience piece as well or better than what they are doing. That's certainly one way. But there's other, I guess you could call it more intrinsically motivating things as well. It's like the idea of this is how we grow the business. When we serve our customers really well, mathematically, when we treat them as this asset, this value pattern, it grows. Like this is how word of mouth happens. This is how our acquisition engine, our pipeline gets fuller. When we do a great job with our existing customers, this is how the business goes. Like there's so many different cases that could be made. But knowing your audience and then awakening that sense of urgency is so critical. Then we bring people together. CX cannot be done in a vacuum, and we'll touch on that a little more in a second. But then we get into that friction reduction mode, thinking about, okay, we've got a change we want to make. Let's make it stick by anticipating those things that are out there. And I love thinking about, Gene Bliss talks about the power core. Every organization has a power core. And that's where the money, that's where the influence is in the business. It could be some strategic function. Many times it's IT, because IT controls the data. And in this world of where data kind of is the heartbeat of the business, a lot of times, IT is the power core. Could be sales, could be marketing. Think about, though, inside of your organization, what is that power core? And how can you make them an ally of the change that you're trying to make and bring them into your CX change coalition? Because without them, you are destined to fail because it's a wall. It's a significant impediment to your ability to impact change. So that would be one example of a barrier to anticipate and to proactively remove. But this is a depiction of the importance of not doing this work alone. And unfortunately, I very much fell into this trap. As I was awarded my first CX title, young in my career, it's the worst thing that could ever happen to me. I was ironically, I was doing CX much better before I was given a CX role because I was just bringing people together. I didn't know the word for it, but it was a CX change coalition. I was bringing different leaders cross-functionally together to dream up what the desired experience could look like and how we together could execute on that and change minds and adapt a certain set of behaviors towards delivering on that brand promise. So I didn't have the terminology yet. And when I was awarded that title of CX leader, I just tried to take everything into me. It's like, everything CX needs to come through me and my function. And that's the worst way to do it. In some ways, I call that now the Moses model of CX. I had my golden tablets of voice of customer data. And I was just slamming them down in front of the organization. All of you are terrible. And You can imagine how motivating that was. It wasn't. It wasn't motivating. It wasn't helpful. When in fact, I needed to be bringing people into the work of CX, much like Gandalf brought people together to form the fellowship that ultimately destroyed the ring. Those are different races of humans working together, and the dwarfs and the elves finally put their differences aside, and all the hobbits show up, and people didn't even know who they were, and they're like this amazing part of the story of navigating the ring to its outcome. And so that's what we're trying to bring people together and not make this idea of CX us, our team, our function, our part of the experience is going to be exceptional and the rest of the organization be darned. But it's really easy to fall into that mode, and I certainly did. And it took a good mentor to wake me up out of that and to become more of a facilitator, a cheerleader of bringing people into the work and giving people a common language for change. And it's not CX buzzwords, folks. Like, that's not the language. It's the change management methodology language. It's the language of establishing a sense of urgency and inspiring folks to the possibilities of what can happen when we do this work really well. So beware of the idea of CX for the sake of CX, but adding momentum to the areas inside the organization that are already really good. That's what we're looking for. And then we get to unlock collective genius. And I'll show you a little teaser on what that looks like in just a second. But now let's get into our third pillar here. So we talked about voice of customer, really understanding the thoughts and perceptions of customers towards us as a brand. We've talked about change management, now using those insights to do something meaningful with it and aligning people towards that together and not doing CX in a silo, in a vacuum. So now really the most important part of this, if we want to get CX to stick, is anchoring it into the culture. Now, if we think about the psychology of people, we're in the workplace. My favorite resource of all time on that is Primed to Perform by Lindsay McGregor and Neil Doshi. It's given me like a sixth sense for just ascertaining why people think and act the way they do. And as a CX leader, that's really nice to have. But as we think about it, I mean, the greatest superpower that we can unlock as we try to make great experiences stick and enable people to deliver on those consistently, it's play. And that's not throwing the ping pong table in there, not to pick on the IT folks, but like that's attributing meaningful curiosity and excitement about the work itself. Like, it's motivating people to, wow, this is good. This is amazing what we're getting to do. It's like a puzzle that gets to be solved. It's an important quest that needs to be fulfilled. And as I do that, I'm becoming the person that I want to become. I'm unleashing my own potential. And it's meaningful. Like, there's a purpose to it. To go back to that brand core, we stand by this. We defend this brand promise, and we do this in a way that nobody else can do. And there should be a sense of pride and intrinsic motivation that really comes from that. But it is difficult to cultivate. And if we look at the reality, and there's this amazing resource called Tribal Leadership, it looks at motivation. It looks at where people are in terms of being able to align and deliver together on a great experience. And here's the 5 levels of a tribe. It starts at level 1, life sucks. As an employee inside this company, my life sucks. That's level 2. It's not everybody's life sucks, but mine does. And then level 3, that idea of, well, I'm pretty good, but there's a lot of dummies around here. And then you get to, there's some good things here. We're pretty great, and we are delivering on something here that is different, that is distinctive, that is unique. Then you get to this level 5 state of like, nobody else could do what we're doing. Like, we have changed the communities that we serve inside of. Like, without us, it would be different in the world. and that incredible pride that comes with serving inside of a tribe like that. So go ahead and guess in the chat where you think 60% of enterprise organizations fall in terms of level 1 through 5. Go ahead and throw that in the chat. I'll let you all guess. If anybody said 2.5, you would be correct. The vast majority of organizations wind up here, according to the leadership the tribal leadership research that was done on a very significant data set. So it's sad, right? In between my life sucks and I'm great and you are not. So really hard to motivate people to the delivery of amazing experiences if that's the mentality, the state of the tribe that we're serving into. So we got to work to break that. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is to unleash this concept of tribal leadership and to get people generating, having that sense of curiosity and excitement and caring enough about the brand promise and having that spark, that sense of urgency we talked about to make something special happen. So innovation usually emerges when diverse people collaborate to generate a wide-ranging portfolio of ideas. In other words, they're not just coming from little tiny pockets. There's not some little function in the business where all the ideas come from, which is sad when that happens, which they then refine and even evolve into new ideas through give and take and often heated debates. There's something magical here, folks. Most organizations, the good ones even, they have some kind of idea box, but it's one person thinking up their idea. And that's the problem. It's their idea. And the idea is in this box. The idea is either good or it's not good. When in fact, the idea is just a piece. It's just one piece of what could become the idea. But that's going to require multiple minds, multiple perspectives, multiple functions coming in to create the idea, the innovation. But we don't think that way. We don't act that way as an organization. Often organizations try to discourage or minimize differences, but that stifles the free flow of ideas and rich discussion that innovation needs. Leaders must manage this tension, and it is tension, to create an environment supportive enough that people are willing to share their genius, but confrontational enough to improve ideas and spark new thinking. Oh, it's beautiful. It's amazing. And if you look at the 4 levels of the circle of psychological safety, it goes from I'm included, like I'm in a team where nobody's going to stab me in the back. That's the first thing. Then it's like I'm learning. My curiosity tendrils are coming out. I'm starting to connect dots. Then it's I'm contributing. I feel free. I feel safe enough to start to express my ideas. But then level 4 is challenger. I'm going to go seek out the ideas of others and I'm going to add my genius to theirs. And they're not going to feel attacked in that. They're going to welcome that because that's where the innovation comes from. The idea is not going to come from one person. It's going to come from collective genius that's sparked in the organization. So it's an amazing resource if you want if that's got you thinking, wow, we're kind of in a box there with the way that we source and manage ideas. Definitely take a look at that. But I've been doing more and more research on this idea of challenger. I mean, we saw it in the Challenger sale. I mean, that changed the world in the area of sales. I mean, I don't know that any industry function has ever been rocked as hard by a single resource as the Challenger sale. But just bringing out that reality of a good salesperson is a guide. They're navigating the customer to their definition of success, and building a story brand by Donald Miller really builds on that concept of being a great guide and challenging people to navigate a journey, even if they don't know exactly what that journey looks like, because we know what the end goal is. We have a clear picture of that because we've walked the path, and now we can help others along that path. But it requires an effective challenger to be able to do that. And so then we have radical candor layered on that too, where it's the idea of care personally. Like, I care about you. I care so much about the mission of this organization that I'm going to challenge you directly. And I've earned the right to do that. So this idea of challenger keeps coming up, and it's a great thing. So, I mean, think about for you right now, like, do you feel like you're awakened as a challenger? Like, where do you fall in that circle of psychological safety? Are you still kind of in that learner stage? Are you feeling really safe to contribute ideas? Or are you all the way activated to that point where collective genius is taking place and that challenger mode is going on? But then I would love to offer even another layer to that, because I've seen a workplace before where they had everybody go rogue as a challenger. And it was a situation where an executive read a book. I think it was Lean Six Sigma for startups or something like that. And the executive came back, and it was an all hands on deck meeting, and he goes, I want everybody to go do it, just do it, which is like a Kaizen term. Go make a just do it happen. And what occurred next was the wild, wild west of innovation stupidity. I mean, everybody went and latched on to some silly little boxed idea that was annoying to them or that they could conveniently solve within their own power. Didn't have to worry about, trying to find others to make collective genius happen. And it was just an absolute hodgepodge of irrelevance. So we don't want to challenge for the sake of challenging. We want to challenge because we care. We want to challenge because we're CX people. We're IT leaders. We're ITSM folks. We are activated to serve. and that's where a real magic happens. And I've kind of been putting those two things together, the idea of a servant challenger. So when we bring this in, where we're honoring others, we're inspiring vision, we're breaking that crippling inertia that happens. We're choosing ethics before short-term profit. We're helping others to move forward. We're growing them. We're bringing flexibility into the conversation and not being rigid on a set of principles that are outdated. We're serving with humility. and we have the courage to seek real truth instead of the convenient layer of what we choose to believe, even though it's not actually real, but it's become the status quo in the organization. We're going to break those boundaries down. We're going to remove even that type of friction. Requires an incredibly mature environment, but that's what a servant leader does. That's what that looks like. And when we add that to the idea of being a challenger, holy cow, what is this? The challenger has the confidence, desire, and capability to push the boundaries and break inertia. And then the servant leader has the ability to do that for something bigger than themselves. They're not just chasing their own legacy. They're not trying to get the next title or a bigger paycheck. That could be part of it. That could be an outcome of it. But they're actually adding value to the organization in a much bigger way than just them. And they're generating real value for the customers on a macro level. And they're helping others to do the same. So I like to think about, in terms of brain chemicals, serotonin. It's like the community chemical. When we see others serving well, it activates us to do the same. Versus when we put people in competition with one another, it generates dopamine. And then right after that, cortisol, which is that stress chemical that kills us, that kills our ability to serve over time. It breaks us down. It brings in burnout and fatigue. So it's like, let's bring energy into it. Let's challenge sustainably by being a servant challenger. And that's an exciting thing to think about. So the last little tidbit I'll leave you with metaphorically here is that idea that we kind of touched on. Let's be a great guide. Let's think about where is it that our stakeholder is trying to go. And so they're the hero of the story, not us. So they're the hero of it. So what does that make us? That makes us the guide. So then let's be an effective guide. Let's think about maybe an exercise that you could even do with your team is to list out the attributes of a great guide. Where is it that your stakeholder is trying to go? What is their definition of success? And there's some great resources in building a story brand around this. But then put some attributes of what a great guide looks like for you. And that's your ability to take the desired experience and put some real meat around it. The mentality and the behaviors that flow out of that mentality as you serve your people in a unique way, in a way that only your organization can do. And that's where loyalty is going to come from. You're going to attract your customers to you, and they're going to stay with you because you're doing something very special there. So I hope that's encouraging. I hope that's helpful. I would love to see the CX mindset burst forth inside of your organization. So please let me be a resource for you. If there's anything you want to think about, let's get a little collective genius going of our own. Let's add our ideas to one another and see what comes forth out of that. That's my email and my LinkedIn there. Would love to connect with you there. But everybody have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everybody.
All right. As I mentioned in the chat, the slides that I post on our HDICFL.com website will have complete slides, not blocked by the video window. And there were several points that resonated with me in terms of tribal leadership and encouraging, the team caring and the excitement about making, every customer experience special. The measuring of customer sentiment and the value focused customer experience metrics that Nate mentioned, lifetime value, health scoring, growth engine, and the concept of collective genius, combining your ideas with other thought leaders to optimize your customer experience. One of the funnier statements or descriptions that Nate made was, culture change is a slippery fish. I've never heard that before, but I understand what he's talking about. Organizational development, change management, and adoption is very key. And that tribal leadership clearly yields great benefits for customer experience. I will post the recording on the website, and I'll strip out the 1 minute or so troubleshooting. So it's only meaningful content. And then, of course, I'm going to post Nate's video as is, and we should be good to go. Any questions or comments? So you can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yep.
Just wanted to make sure audio worked. All right. Well, I'm very big on starting on time and ending on time. Thank you, everyone, for joining our web conference today. Nate apparently has not completed his executive team meeting yet, so unfortunately, he can't answer questions on the fly. However, uh, his email will be on the final slide, and he has a website, CX Accelerator, that also includes a lot of additional thought leaders content as well. So all this will be posted on the website. Thank you so much for joining, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you.